Welcome to SBA's Training on Demand. This segment will cover navigating the SOP. Ginger Allen did a similar training when SOP 5010-6 was first published. The purpose of this training is to provide updated information reflected in SOP 5010-7.1. At the beginning of the SOP is the How to Use this document page. It is the first page in the SOP immediately after the table of contents and contains the highlights of the slide deck. It's an easy reference that's always available. A feature added in the publication of SOP 5010-6 was that headers were placed at the top right of each page. This was the single most requested feature and remains a popular feature in SOP 5010-7.1. It makes following citations easier. No need to scroll back pages to find out where you're at in the SOP. Page numbers were also added at the bottom right of each page. The navigation pane feature in Word is your SOP best friend. Finding answers to those challenging SBA origination questions has never been easier. Think of it as the SOP's roadmap. It's a vertical pane on the left of the viewing screen and runs alongside the document text. Each line is a hyperlink directly to the SOP content. It can be expanded and collapsed to show only the content you're interested in seeing. This is a Microsoft Word tool available on all Word documents. But it's only useful if the document was built with certain conventions using Word styles. We structured the SOP to maximize the usefulness of the navigation pane's features. So how do you access the navigation pane? There are other methods of opening the navigation pane, but we're only listing two here. One for people who like to use shortcut keys and the other for people who prefer to use the ribbon at the top of the page. Method 1, click the Control key and the letter F at the same time. When the navigation pane comes up on the left of the page, then click Headings. Method 2, from the ribbon at the top of the screen, select View. Then, in the Show section of the ribbon, checkmark Navigation Pane. Have you ever gotten lost in the SOP? There are two ways to determine where you are. As we mentioned a couple of slides ago, the header information is located at the top right of every page. And if you look in the navigation pane, your location is highlighted in blue. And here is a helpful user tip. Click once on the page where you want to be in the document, so Microsoft Word knows what page you're on. If you've been scrolling the document, Microsoft Word thinks you're at the spot where you last clicked on a page. Want to create a custom document that allows you to only see what you want to see and hide what you don't? You can tailor what you see by clicking the triangle at the left of the line to expand or collapse the view. Here you can see what the navigation pane looks like, fully collapsed, partially expanded, and fully expanded. In the partially expanded view, it will show just sections and chapters. In the fully expanded view, you can see the sections, chapters, and paragraphs. If you're working with different sizes of screens or want to expand the navigation pane, you can resize it by making it wider or more narrow. Click and drag on the gray dividing line between the navigation pane and the document text to customize your view. This feature is great for users who are familiar with the menu layout and are working on a small screen. You may already be familiar with Control F for searches, but there's so much more you can do with searches when you use the navigation pane. The navigation pane will highlight the portion of the SOP that contains the search term. And the search term is also highlighted in each place it appears in the body of the text, making it easier to find what you're looking for. When you see the highlight in the section that is relevant to your question, if you click on that section and then click on the down arrow on the top right of the navigation pane, it will take you to the search term in that section. Here's an example of the search term size standard, highlighted in 4 places on the page. Again, each line that appears in the navigation pane is a hyperlink directly to the text in the SOP. The Results tab in the navigation pane is another option for searches and is helpful when there are a lot of results from the word search. Contextual results are pulled into a list in the navigation pane area. This is really helpful when you're not sure exactly what search term to use. For example, say you remember that in a certain circumstance, the size standards are increased and you want to find that reference in the SOP, but you're not sure what search term to use. You can search size standards and glance down the results list to quickly see the contextual results of the applicable size standards are increased by 25%. When you click on that result, you will jump to the corresponding spot in the SOP. The advanced find feature allows you to search with wildcards or by matching case. The wildcards feature helps find words that you don't know how to spell, or for times when you're not sure which search words to use, such as regulation or regulatory. It's also helpful when you don't know the entire regulatory reference. For example, you can search 120.4 asterisk. You can use the question mark in your search to represent any single character, or you can use the asterisk to represent an unspecified number of characters. To access the advanced find option, you can click on the drop-down arrow next to the magnifying glass in the search bar and select Advanced Find. A box will pop up that says Find and Replace. Next, you will click on More in the bottom right of the Find and Replace search box. Then the Find and Replace search box will expand, showing you the match case and use wildcards option, among others. Never lose your place again when clicking on a hyperlink to another location in the SOP. If you're in the SOP and you click on a hyperlink that takes you to another spot within the SOP, you can return to your original spot by clicking Alt and the left arrow key. Also, links to external sites will also appear in a separate window, so your spot in the SOP won't move. So far, we've looked at the navigation options available in the SOP. Now we're going to look at the overall structure and organization of the SOP. Certain parts of the SOP are set up similar to the application process with an applicant. During the application process, you may want to first determine if the applicant is eligible for SBA. Second, what are the funds being used for? Third, how will the loan be structured? Fourth, once it's determined that the application or the applicant is SBA eligible, what the funds are being used for, and how the loan will be structured, it's time to move on to underwriting the request. And then fifth, when the lender determines the loan is credit approved, it's time to submit the application for guarantee. In the illustration on this slide, you can see the application steps that I just outlined and the corresponding steps in the SOP. So when those difficult questions come up, knowing the general layout of the SOP can help in identifying the area where the answers to those questions might be. SOP 5010 is organized into three main sections. Section A, core requirements for 7A and 504 loans. Section B are the requirements specific to the 7A loan program. And Section C contains the 504 loan program specific requirements. Section A, core requirements for all 7A and 504 loans, is exactly what it says in the title. We put all of the eligibility and other requirements that apply to all applicants, regardless of the program, in one place. Section A, Chapter 1, contains all of the applicant eligibility requirements that are validated by SBA's risk mitigation framework. All other eligibility requirements in Chapters 2 through 5 are the lender's responsibility to verify. Section B contains the 7A loan program specific requirements. Each 7A delivery method has its own chapter that takes the user from eligibility through application submission. The 7A delivery methods are standard 7A loans. Those are loans greater than $500,000. 7A small and SBA express loans. Those are 7A loans that are $500,000 or less. 7A cap lines, 7A Export Trade Finance, which consists of Export Express, Export Working Capital Program, or EWCP, and International Trade. The final chapter in the 7A section takes the user from E-Tran terms and conditions through disbursement. An example of how a lender could use the SOP to process an SBA Express loan, they would read the core requirements section, then the SBA Express delivery method chapter, and then the E-Tran terms and conditions through disbursement chapter. For example, this is the first delivery method specific chapter. It walks the user through the delivery method specific eligibility criteria and then through the loan process. It begins with specific standard 7A loan eligibility requirements such as debt refinancing, change of ownership, other restrictions that apply to PLP loans, and then walks through the loan process, loan terms, credit standards, submission of application for guarantee. This is the 7A Small and SBA Express chapter. Each delivery method chapter follows the same format as outlined in the previous slide. There are 4 types of cap lines: working capital, contract, seasonal, and builders. Due to the differences in eligibility requirements for each type of cap line, we gave each cap line its own eligibility section. The 7A Export Trade Finance chapter contains the 3 types of export trade finance programs: Export Express, Export Working Capital Program, or EWCP, and International Trade. The 7A Export Trade Finance delivery method sections are formatted consistently with all the 7A delivery methods. They start with eligibility and go through submission of application. The ending chapter, Chapter 5, E-Tran terms and conditions through disbursement for all 7A loans, takes the user from E-Tran terms and conditions, which is formally authorization, through post-approval modification, transfer of guarantee between participating lenders, and finally the steps for loan closing and disbursement. Section C contains the 504 loan program specific requirements. And finally, the last section is the appendices. The appendices section has a lot of useful information such as acronyms, definitions, and SBA email addresses. It also includes other important requirements and templates. That concludes this segment of Training on Demand.